Welcome to Off the Bench. It's your host Jabari. Joining me on the other line as usual is Xavi. What up, X?
What up? Just holding it down from the 305.
Well, we on episode 2. Mama made it.
Hey, we made it. A
Ballin'.
lot of
Shout out to
people
Jimmy.
make it all the way to the second way. Hey, Dipset, all day.
All day. What's been going on with you, man?
Man, just getting close to that time of the year. Projects being due. Got a couple of different stuff I'm handling at the same time. I might be midway in an L streak, just collecting L's all over the place. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We shall overcome.
With Martin Luther King, you dig? You saw that A over the mountaintop. You dig?
It's coming. It's on the way. It's on the way. But I know who took the biggest L this week.
Who?
D'Angelo Russell. Why? Cause snitching don't get you nothing.
Stop
Nothing.
snitching. Shout out to Killer Cam. It's a Dipset podcast. No, not really.
Hey, I ain't mind the endorsement, but everybody know Los Angeles Lakers rookie D'Angelo Russell.
Mm-hmm.
He is in a heap of trouble right now because there's a video that surfaced early up in the week where he allegedly, and we use that term very loosely.
He did it. That means he did it. For those of you
That mean he did it.
taking notes at home.
Just like OJ allegedly did it also.
Can says allegedly kills you.
Yeah, but
Sugar is
D'Angelo secretly was videotaping and recording a conversation between him and Nick Young, where he's asking Nick Young, who has a girlfriend,
Who's
I
his
think
girlfriend?
he's
Xavi?
engaged to him.
Yep.
This young lady called Iggy Azalea. Nobody famous, nobody who matters, in the pop culture circle. But he is asking Nick Young questions about being with other women,
Mm-hmm.
not his girlfriend, other women.
Did you watch the video?
I watched it, and it looked like a mistake to me. Like, when I said mistake, not in a good way, as in, you know, he should have knew better. He knew better. Like, I don't see any way that D'Angelo Russell records that video and Nick Young does not stand over him and watch him delete that video.
The first question is, it's funny you should say that, but the first question I had, right, is where the hell is this being recorded? Because when I saw the headlines on, I think, Sports Center,
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. It was in the locker room. They might have been talking. It's after a game. They're chopping it up. Yada yada yada. But it seems to me like it was at a home type environment.
It looks like
It looked like Nick Lang
D'Angelo.
was lying down flat
y-
on a
Yup.
laptop, and I see like a chair and like a foyer around surrounded it. So it seems like they were in, well, not a team. It could have been a team playing, but it seems like they were in a building
Nah,
or
nah,
like
nah,
a
nah.
relaxed
You know
environment.
what it looks like to me? It looks like D'Angelo Russell took his happy self to go to Nick Young's house to collect evidence, like he working for the wire. Like he went over there specifically on a mission, say, you know what? I'm gonna mess everything up. Everybody catching L's now.
So he gets on his Sherlock Holmes. He takes his monocle
Mm-hmm.
and his Laker memorabilia hat. He makes his way over to Nick Young house, examines the tire marks on the road, licks his thumb, put it up in the air, then starts scaling the wall, crawls to the fireplace, then start interrogating Swaggy P. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's exactly how it happened. Because this is the biggest thing about it. And you know, people gonna come and they're gonna talk about, oh, why are we even talking about this? This is not the issue. We should be talking about Nick Young's infidelity. No matter how Iggy Azalea found out about his infidelity, that doesn't matter on how she found out. My thing is, why it had to be you, D'Angelo? Because honestly, people do things for two reasons. One, because they think is funny, or two, you know, they're trying to get some, you know, because your lady friend around, you do things that ain't smart. I don't see this being funny in no way for nobody. And this is the opposite of trying to get some. Because no
So,
people ain't gonna trust you.
so really made it blow up, right? Is that somehow he took the video of Nick Young saying that, you know, he had some type of sexual relations, for those of you who are scoring at home,
Shout out to
with,
Bill Clinton.
and he got hacked, allegedly, and it was posted on Snapchat by somebody. It went viral, and the whole team found out about it. In fact, the whole world found out
Mm-hmm.
about it. And now it seemed as if they were alienating him in the locker room. So when I saw this, right, I was like, okay, big deal, right? But then the story kept on going for a couple of days, and it seemed like they're having team breakfast. Nobody's sitting at his table. They're
Who
literally
wants to
not.
sit next to the snitch?
They're literally not speaking to him at all. Now, for those of you who have played on a sports team, this is like the worst thing that could possibly happen to you within a team. For the whole team to not talk to you or not acknowledge your presence.
You
And
know,
it's troubling because, you know, they invested a lot of draft capital, if you will, on him. Number 2 pick.
mm-hmm. Number two.
I don't know if he's been playing good because I've been looking at him and I don't know if I'm impressed or not, but you got to look at the roster, you got to look at the coach, you got to look at all the factors before I pass judgment. But this definitely was really a striking blow and is particularly underwhelming season.
Well, I'm a Lakers fan. So
Disclaimer.
I have seen flashes of him being really good. Not so much in the vision that, you know, people talked about, but in his ability to shoot the ball. No, the biggest thing with this situation is a lot of the guys who would be able to speak to him and like get him through all of this, they ain't gonna be on the team next year. He is going to be left with guys like Swaggy P and Lou Williams. Lou Williams ain't trying to talk to him. Lou Williams got two girlfriends. You can't bring none of them stitching to his door.
1 and 2, something in there like Lou Will. 6 men like Lou Will. 2 girls and they get along like them.
Lou
Lou.
Will. So he ain't trying to hear nothing from Swaggy. Like he ain't in this. He like, wait, you did that to him and he got one girlfriend, but I got two. I ain't talking to you no more.
And what was crazy, right?
Just like that.
I saw the interview with D'Angelo looking like he was about to burst into tears. Shout out to all my light skinned listeners, all 3 of you.
You should.
And the other one was with Swaggy P, and he had the most serious, stoic, dead like somebody killed his pet gerbil. It was really, 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 really a stark contrast from how he always is, which is basically a payass. Ding, SK word of the day. Big up, bloop, bloop, bloop. So, kill the Jamaican earhards. So, I thought Swaggy P really, really, really feels some type of way. Shout out to Rich Homie Quan. Really, 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 he does. And I really thought that this would be like a 2 minute little okay, slow news day, yada, yada, yada. We'll be over this in 2 weeks. But then we started seeing articles popping up. Should the Lakers trade D'Angelo Russell? Oh, the Boston Celtics would be interested in trading D'Angelo Russell. Oh, the Chicago Bulls might have put Jimmy Butler on the table straight up for D'Angelo Russell. And I'm like, what? For recording
Man.
35 seconds of video and making a bad decision as a 19-year-old?
Yeah.
Hey, I've made plenty of bad decisions in my life, and I've continued, and sometimes I still be making them, right? But as a 19-year-old, you make bad decisions sometimes. It's not that bad. D'Angelo, get it together, son.
Yeah. Step your game up. Like, you got money, you should have people that tell you, hey, that's not smart. But talking about getting traded, you know who else may have been hit with the L this week?
It's the L train. I don't know.
This
Tell me.
dude named Kyrie Irving.
Killer Kyrie.
Now, the big, this is more of a gray area L in that we don't know everything that's happening with it.
We don't really.
So, yeah, we don't really know.
Okay, so this is what we know, right? For those of you who are listening, Kyrie Irving was in a relationship with a singer, an R&B singer from Oakland called Kehlani.
Mm-hmm.
She was in a relationship previously with OVO artist PartyNextDoor.
Mm-hmm.
So they were in a relationship, meaning PartyNextDoor and Kehlani at some point, and they broke up, and it was pretty public. And PartyNextDoor even released a song called Kehlani's Freestyle, confirming the breakup and speaking about his failures as a boyfriend. That sounds so Lipstick Alley. Anyway, later on, Kehlani posts a picture on Instagram talking about, well, the same long paragraph that all you girls post around the holidays when you're getting carried away, right? Basically, just imagine that girl on your timeline, right? That likes a lot of attention and who switches
Valentine's Day poems.
and switches boyfriends like every 21 days, like it's payday,
Do
and
you,
then
baby?
they
Do you?
and they take like a couple paragraphs from various, I guess, love articles and whatever, and put them together, put it on, and put the caption underneath a picture of them and their new boo. That's what Kehlani did. Okay, so then PartyNextDoor posted a picture on his Instagram with Kehlani's hand, and I say Kehlani's hand because she has one of the worst tattoos I've ever seen in my entire life on her hand, and it's very
Trash.
noticeable, trash in all angles. The photo came with a caption: "After all her shenanigans, still got the R&B singer back in my bed." PartyNextDoor was then photographed wearing a Kyrie Irving jersey that day, rocking out the show.
So many L's.
No, it gets better. It gets better. Kehlani posts a photo the next day, which has since been deleted, with a caption that she implied that she had tried to commit suicide. So she has that ugly hand that I'm talking about, with a syringe in it, and she says, and I'm going to quote this for our listeners: "Today I wanted to leave this earth, being completely selfish for once. Never thought I'd get to such a low point. But don't believe the blogs you read. No one was cheated on, and I'm not a bad person. Everyone is hurt, and everyone is in a place of misunderstanding. But as of today, I had no single wish to see tomorrow. But God saved me for a reason, and for that I must be grateful, 'cause I'm not in heaven right now for a reason." On that note, by Instagram. So ignore the fact that Kehlani, although she allegedly committed suicide, and I think that's the word of the day in the pod.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, we're gonna call this episode 2. We're gonna call it allegedly. So she allegedly almost committed suicide, and she had the time to take a picture of a needle sticking into her arm. Ignore the fact
Mm-hmm.
that this is obviously a cry for attention. Ignore the fact that PartyNextDoor is obviously a jerk, having tweeted out the picture, possibly an old picture of Kehlani in his bed or in a bed. We don't actually know
Mm-hmm.
whose bed it is. And then rock the Kyrie Irving jersey on the same day to cause stir. Ignore all these things. Tell me, what is the moral of the story here?
The moral of the story is everybody loses. Everybody. Everybody.
Who takes the biggest L in this situation?
the biggest L is a shared L. You know, the smallest L in this situation actually goes to Kyrie
Really?
because he hasn't said anything about any of this. He has continued with his
Hmm.
day job. That's all he did. From Kehlani's point of view, why are you posting all of this? Like, why? Why you had to have this huge Valentine's Day post, which you deleted, close your Instagram, only to open back your Instagram to post your suicide attempt
Right? To close it again.
and to close again. And my biggest thing is look, suicide is very serious. It's a very serious matter. It's something that affects a large percentage of society and people don't pay attention to it. But these people make it so hard not to make jokes about them. Like,
Not really.
who? Who honestly, right after a suicide, is on the IV drips
Mm-hmm.
and they're in there like, yo, I gotta post this on Instagram
Hit up the
because
gram.
that's important. That's my biggest thing. Like, yo, like you ain't supposed to be there like trying to get all the nutrients and life back in you. Like, why you on Instagram? She's really good at music. She
Okay.
seems to be really bad at boyfriends and social media.
And life. And life.
Well, she isn't bad at life yet because she didn't get to kill herself. And yes, I went there. I just made a joke about suicide even though I didn't want to. So
Ah.
you
Oh
see,
man.
in a situation like this, I'm trying so hard not to make fun
No,
of
you're not.
like people who try to kill themselves. But it's so easy. This brings up an interesting thing. Party Next Door,
Mm-hmm.
because of this story, people started pulling up like old pics of Party Next Door.
Right.
He looked like a fat kid. He looked like Terrio singing R&B in high school. That's how old pics of Party Next Door.
Little Terry.
Little Terrio out here serenading these girls, like in Canada.
So he had like 18 tires around his waist. That type of fat, or we just talking about a little chubby, a little success belly. Like when you're hitting over
Yeah.
55,
He looking like his nickname could be the Michelin Man.
inside
Like,
joke alert.
he got a couple roles, but he ain't huge.
Alright.
But look, I just think these
So he's more
people,
like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
he's a Pillsbury Doughboy out here singing these songs. But hey, he slimmed down and now he in a tussle with a basketball player for a girl with a terrible tattoo, and everybody loses. That's that's my point of view on it. Everybody loses.
Ah, man. L's left and right. But somebody who collected a W this week, Yao Ming, and I had to talk to you about this. So former Houston
Hmm.
Rockets center Yao Ming, 7'6", Chinese icon Yao Ming, right? It has been announced that he's been elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now I wanted to talk about this, and I wanted to talk to you about this on a multitude of levels. First, should Yao have been elected to the Hall of Fame, in your opinion?
Yes. I don't want to make the argument saying that, oh, it's about what you do off the court and on the court, but you can't really challenge him on the court either. Yao Ming has career averages of 19 points, 9.2 rebounds, and close to 2 blocks a game. Now, in the time that he did it was only 8 years. The NBA is more of a league where people, when we start talking about people in the Hall of Fame, people's legacies, we look at as this huge window of 10, 12 years. But honestly, people their prime when they're actually valued
Mm-hmm.
is only about 5, 6 years. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's prime time. So in that window of Yao Ming's 8-year career, he was really good for all of those 8 years. The problem has always been his injuries. And honestly, he expanded the game a lot. Like, if Yao Ming was able to be voted in the All-Star game, he's starting right now, not playing a game. Yao Ming gets the most votes.
Shout out to China.
From China to the NBA opened up so much doors for the NBA, like the entire association, because now it expanded their global reach. And this is going to be the unique part of his legacy. The same way how you talk about how the NBA was able to reach out to Africa with like the Dream and with all these other guys that they started getting,
Mutombo.
and the way, yeah, Mutombo, the way that they were able to get guys from Europe, the impact that now they're having from Canada. All of this is the same with how Yao Ming being the iconic player when you think about Asian basketball players. So I think based on what his impact is for the association and also his play for that 8-year span, Yao Ming he was a factor on that team every year. So even though he was riddled with injuries, if he was playing, it was going to be a problem down there in the post.
Right.
Like even big guys like Shaq, they would tell you like Yao Ming looks like a guy that you could push around, but he's really strong and he had versatile post moves. So I think he gets in.
He was a number overall pick in '02, and I think he was a good one. And as you said correctly, I agree with you 100% because, in my opinion, he was responsible for the NBA's massive reach into China. The past commissioner, David Stern, attributed his rise in the NBA with a boom in the television ratings and merchandise sales exploding upon his
money.
rise to stardom.
Money.
And the NBA, just like most of us, like money. And he can be directly. I can't speak today. What's going on with me? He can be directly attributed with a rise in popularity in the NBA on a global scale. So he represented much more than his play on the floor. And I think it's a worthy candidate to being voted into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Because this is the simplest thing. Who doesn't like Yao Ming? Like, who is at that point when they'll be like, nah, I ain't voting for him?
Nobody? I don't know. Maybe Rick Adelman? I don't know. One of Tracy McGrady's cousins? I don't know. Definitely not
That's
Shane
the thing.
Battier.
Like, nobody who has a vote has a legitimate reason to not put him in. Like, this guy, and it gonna get into something that I don't like. I feel people get weird about, in that with the Hall of Fame, guys, when they're already retired, their numbers don't get any better. So, telling me that, oh, how are you gonna let Yao Ming in, and we got this some other dude from 1960 that hasn't gotten in yet? I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna tell you, from my perspective, I don't know that dude. I don't know him. His numbers look and he played basketball in a different time. So I gonna have the bias towards what I see and what impact me directly. So I think Yao Ming has the advantage over a lot of people and he gets in.
So, a few other people were put up for induction into the Hall of Fame. Namely, one Allen Iverson. He gets in.
He's getting in.
Easily. And the Diesel, Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously, one of the 10 or 12, in my opinion, best players of all time. He's a shoo-in.
Getting in.
Now, a few of the other people who have some probability is Tim Hardaway, one of the sickest crossovers in NBA history. Kevin Johnson.
Yeah.
Chris Webber. Michael Finley. And Big Z, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. As well as Peja Stojakovic. Now, if you were to pick
so hands
maybe
down,
one
Yao
person,
Ming is getting in Michael Finley.
Michael Finley? Why?
Michael Finley is the guy coming out for Yao.
You said that without hesitation. Like I'm kind of surprised.
What you
So not Chris Webber, not Tim Hardaway,
he's
aka.
number two. That's the thing. The first person getting kicked off that team for Yao Ming is Michael Finley. The second person right behind Michael Finley is Chris Webber, aka worst announcer in history.
Dude, dude, dude. Let's not even stat on Chris Webber's
You know what? Switch
horrible,
it. Switch it. Because Michael Finley never
horrible,
said nothing dumb.
dude. Chris Webber is the worst announcer of all time in any sport, in any situation. You know when you go to like a pageant and there's this girl that shouldn't belong and she says something extremely dumb and there's this awkward pause. Not even like the traditional ha ha ha.
Hmm.
Not the lol nades or the LMA, not the traditional lol, but she says something so incredibly. I don't even know what to say.
What?
Help me
That's
out.
the response. What?
Like it sends a shockwave throughout the crowd, and there's this awkward 2 to 3 second pause before your misbehaved friend breaks out in laughter for about 3 or 5 minutes. That's Chris Webber every night on TNT, dog. He's and
Every
he
night.
also
But
has the charisma of a dead seahorse. It's really 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 bad. But I ain't trying to harp on Chris Webber anymore.
so what I want us to move into now is this thing that people keep on telling me you should watch because it's better basketball, except it's not. And I'm talking about the NCAA, men's college basketball. So, Wes, when it comes to the NCAA, men's college basketball, everybody talking about these fundamentals that these dudes ain't seem to be using. They're just, out there passing the ball to each other for 20 seconds off the shot clock
Mm-hmm.
and then throwing the ball at the backboard because, they're out there scoring games in the 60s on a regular basis.
50s even. Sometimes 40s.
Hey, that's what people believe equals the fundamentals. Lack of excitement's got to be fundamental. But not saying that the March Madness tournament hasn't been exciting because you got, teams like Little Rock who just upsetting dudes like Purdue, like at the last moment, just
Uh-huh.
saying, you know what? We gonna hit this three from way out here where Steph Curry shoots. And of course, my Syracuse Orange waltz in to the Cinderella music into the Final Four because when you had Middle Tennessee knocking out Michigan State, we was like, oh, this gonna be easy for us now.
Layups.
Layups, dog. The zone has made it to the Final Four again.
Uh-huh.
I gotta go with the Syracuse. Syracuse Orange. Yeah, well, what you talking about? Who's my second pick? Oklahoma.
Now, I agree with you because, Roy Williams is going to find a way to mess up that game. I guarantee you. Even though I would think he has superior talent to Syracuse. It's not all about
Oh
talent
yeah.
in the tournament. And,
Syracuse has the least talent out of those four.
right. And it's really shocking the type of year we had in terms of upsets. It seems like there's really not much different between these players, and it speaks kind of volumes towards college basketball in general that
Mm-hmm.
the consensus number one pick, Ben Simmons,
Mm-hmm.
didn't even make the tournament.
Hmm.
I mean, it's really, 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 really put us in a weird space and weird place in college basketball, and I'm not sure if I really like where the game is. Now I grew up watching college basketball and loving it, but eventually, after looking at what I feel to be a far superior product,
Mm-hmm.
I found myself poking holes in the college basketball game. Now,
Yep.
in terms of the environment and the hype and the excitement of the players, that's always going to be a 9 on 10 or 12 on 10, depending on the venue and depending on the rivalry, depending on the matchup. But a lot of it is a lot of passing for 25 seconds just for somebody who's a low
Mm-hmm.
percentage 3-point shooter to jack up a 3-point shot that's contested. So I kind of have a love-hate relationship with college
Well,
basketball right now. But who has impressed you so far, and who you think would be a lottery pick? Well, not really who you think would be a lottery pick, but who would you think would be a good lottery pick for your Los Angeles Lakers, who has a top 3 pick definitely this year?
well, this is the good thing. If you're picking in that top, I wouldn't say three, in the top two
Mm-hmm.
is between Ingram coming out to Duke
Right.
and Ben Simmons coming out to LSU.
Uh-huh.
My thing is looking at Ben Simmons. He physically looked bigger and he physically looked like he was supposed to be better than everybody on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And at times he did. But then there were some of the simplest things that you just didn't see. Like it didn't look that way. And I think that's what translated into a lot of the losses. Teams knew that, hey, we gonna make him shoot. And when he shot, it was trash. It was hot garbage being released.
Yeah, I saw about 3 or 4 games of Simmons. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm lying. Probably about 6 games of Simmons. And one thing that stood out to me, it seemed like they had no reliable offensive game plan. They had no point guard to get him the ball
Yeah.
where he wanted. And it was some real suspect coaching. But I
Most
think he has
definitely.
potential. And that's saying a lot, right? Because all of these guys have, tons of potential. But
Mm-hmm.
my favorite player so far for the year has been the Oklahoma star, one Buddy Hield. 6'4"
Big up
man.
Bahamas, 242.
How you know that area code though? Like, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. Anyway, shooting guard out of Oklahoma, averaging a scorching 29.3 points per game in the tournament
Mm-hmm.
and showing a lot of moxie, as one Richard Vital would say. What about him?
Personally, I like Buddy.
Pause.
Pause. So we're gonna do that over. I like the young
I'm
man,
not
Mr.
cutting that
Hill.
out. I'm not cutting that out. Just letting you know right now.
I like the Bahamian coming out of Oklahoma. He definitely showed this year that he could shoot the ball, and his name is Buddy, and I just had a sentence with the word ball. Look, I'm done with that. But he could shoot.
You're losing.
He could shoot. He
You
could
losing
score.
like Kyrie. Oh,
No,
man.
the only person who got a bigger L than me right now is D'Angelo. Like D'Angelo Russell, he's the only one losing more.
Yo.
But yeah, he could shoot.
Mm-hmm.
He could create his own shot. He is a better scorer than he was in previous years, which should happen because he's been there all 4 years. I'm not sure how he would be in the NBA as yet, in that he's 6'4", but he doesn't look like a 6'4", and you think, that's a dude who, in that combo guard shape, he has like this over. He doesn't seem like he overpowers. He doesn't seem like he's extremely fast.
He's not.
So then you rely on just his shooting ability. So there's a high chance he could get to the league and become a JJ Redick, or maybe a Heinrich if he learns how to create shots for other people.
I think that he's been a fascinating story, and and an observer like me has been watching him very closely in all of his
Mm-hmm.
games in the tournament. he really has a lot
Yeah.
of confidence, and he shows up in big games. And I think that's one of the things that separates the men
Yes.
from the boys in the tournament, and is a good indicator of who will have NBA success. Basically, those who I think play well under high stakes, under um, you know challenging
In the
circumstances in the
in the
postseason,
pressure.
right, under pressure situations. Those are the ones who will succeed on the higher level. I mean, Kobe was in the house for one of his
Yeah.
games, and he promptly dropped, I think it was 37,
He sauced them.
sauced, and those are the type of things that you'll never forget. And I think he has the swagger to be a top flight player in the NBA. He reminds me a lot of Damian Lillard in that when he entered the league, Lillard never played like a rookie. He had a lot of
Hmm.
swag, and you talk to anybody, you read any of the quotes from the Portland Trail Blazers staff and the organization there. Everybody always said that Damian Lillard is a leader.
Very
He's
mature.
he's a worker, and he knows what it takes to succeed as a professional. And I think Buddy Hield will live up to his lofty expectations after being the hottest name in college basketball, seeing that Ben Simmons again is not playing.
Hmm.
And I think he'll succeed on the next level. So shout out to all my Bahamian listeners. There might not be any of you, but shout out to you
Hey, two
still.
for two stand up.
And I wish Buddy all the best. Pause. I like Jamal Murray too. I like Jamal Murray
Nah,
too from
he trash.
Kentucky. He's a
Now, before we
scorer
move
though.
on,
He's a scorer though. I
uh,
like Murray too.
I'm going to say a statement I think is not that controversial. Some people might think so. In the last decade, the Kansas Jayhawks have produced a bunch of role players and Andrew Wiggins. And
It,
honestly, I could even take it further. Since 2000 and maybe three, all we've gotten from schools like Kansas, and I'm going directly at the Jayhawks, are role players and Wiggins. That's all we've gotten. Andrew Wiggins is the last star to come from Kansas Jayhawks.
is Wiggins even a star though?
This is the thing. He has to be because he's the only one averaging more than 15 points. To
On that
get
team?
an
No, that can't be true.
NBA, that is true.
Nah,
Andrew
that
Wiggins.
can't be true. I'm sure that Kyle Anthony Towns averaged like 17 points. I'm
Oh,
pretty
he
sure
from
that.
Kentucky,
You talking about okay. I
Kansas.
thought you meant on Minnesota. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Okay.
Oh,
Right,
Towns
right,
is a
right.
beast. That's a beast.
Yeah, right. You're right. All right.
But honestly, in the last, I could go further. Because I'm looking at the
You
numbers
going
right
all
now.
in on what's your hate for
At
the
the turn
Jayhawks?
of the century, I don't know. I don't know. I feel salty. I'm a Syracuse fan. We in the Final Four. Kansas
Okay.
doesn't have a draft pick in the NBA since Paul Pierce that is averaging a career average higher than 12 points. Cole Aldridge, out of here. Morris Twins, out of here. Thomas Robinson, out of
You
here.
going all in the Kansas, man. Like, what's the deal?
Rock Chalk, Jayhawk, and role players. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. But
Somebody for fun.
before we wrap up, I had to talk to you about this scathing article on the New York
Mm.
Times written about the NFL. So I'm gonna give you a little quiz, and those of you who are listening at home, all six of you, y'all could write this down. So here's the quiz, pop quiz. Which one of the following is the NFL in your opinion? A. Trustworthy. B. Truthful. C. honest. D, none of the above. Not gonna be able to do it. Shout out to General Rose.
I took none of the above.
None of the above. So you did take D. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the New York Times put out an article comparing the NFL to the tobacco industry. And
You hear that? You hear that?
what that was that your smoke or cough? What was that? Oh,
That that's the thing. You can't tell if it's the NFL or tobacco industry causing that.
So the reason they did this is because in the 90s, the NFL was beginning to take a lot of heat from media houses about concussions. So they conducted some research, and I use the word research very lightly, in which from 1996 to 2001, they supposedly compiled all the concussion data they had, did extensive testing on it in terms of the data and diagnosis from doctors, and I use doctors very lightly again, and they came out and said, well, this concussion thing, this might not be too bad. But the New York Times says that confidential data obtained by them shows that more than 100 diagnosed concussions were omitted from the studies that the database apparently had. Here's the thing.
Uh-oh.
Here's the thing. Fast forward 10 years later, the NFL agreed to a $765 million settlement of a lawsuit in which retired players accuse league officials of covering up the risk of concussions, so they settled the deal. And some players have even appealed the settlement, and I'm quoting the New York Times here, asking for an examination of the committee's concussion research. What do you think about this?
This is how you know this is a very serious thing. The NFL is threatening to go to war, having their lawyers call up the New York Times, saying that this is like a defamation lawsuit, and there's no way that the NFL could be linked like this. And while they think that the New York Times just did it for clickbait and just to get people enwrapped in it, there's no actual evidence. And the New York Times is like, bring it.
So
they're straight up telling the NFL, bring it. Since we ain't got this mountain of evidence that we just explained in an article, bring it.
So concussions, I think we'd all agree, cannot be equated with smoking, right? Because smoking kills, according to research, 1,300 people per day in the States, in the United States of America. And that's according also to the New York Times. But for our listeners, I want to frame this entire scenario, and y'all decide who you believe. So, the NFL commissioner at the time, Paul Tagliabue, announced the need for independent scientific research. He says, as we look more deeply into the specific area of concussions, we realize that there were many more questions than answers. When I hear that, I say, media pressure, we have to do something about this. So they conduct this search. But prominent holes were in the study. After somebody went over all the data they reported and all the data collected, one of the glaring things was that the Cowboys, your Cowboys, did not have a single concussion in the database or in the report, which covers 6 seasons. So over 6 seasons, not one player, not Troy Aikman, not nobody was listed as having any concussion. The problem with this is this. The NFL is mandated to put out all injury reports. And this is mainly because of gambling, right? And if you just take up news clippings and production of the injury reports and date them back, Troy Aikman was listed as having a concussion 4 times during that period. So somebody looks at this and says, wait a minute. What's going on here? And the commissioner says that originally he mandated all NFL team physicians complete and return forms wherever they examine a player with a head injury, end quote. After the Times describe how it had identified missing concussions, the NFL come out and says, oh, we never said that. Teams were not mandated to participate, only strongly encouraged. And some teams did not take the additional steps of supplying the initial and or follow-up forms.
Mm-hmm. This is part of like when people talk about concussions and the NFL, and I tell them like it's a serious thing. And they say, but the NFL is the largest donator to concussion research and like brain research and stuff like that.
True.
I say, yes. The NFL is also the largest provider of bullshit about concussion research.
True.
Because you're telling me people with eyes saw Troy Aikman get the wind knocked out of him. Mm-hmm. They saw them putting smelling salts in front of his nose, and he legit was almost used to the smell, so it wasn't effective anymore. And you're gonna tell me, after seeing this man on the sidelines, wondering which shoe he should put on,
mm-hmm.
and if he really needs gloves, and should his helmet be on his head, you're gonna tell me, oh no, he fine. No concussion.
And the reason it was compared to the tobacco industry is because the tobacco industry, especially in the early 90s and late 80s, was notorious for creating these fake scientific studies that says smoking is not that bad. Meanwhile, smoking-related health conditions were the leading cause of death in the U.S.
The woof.
Right? Accounting for 25% of all deaths annually. Also, every year, tobacco kills more Americans than HIV, drug and alcohol abuse. Shout out to Molly's. That's the second episode in a row we mentioned Molly's. Suicide, murders, and car accidents combined. In other words, the NFL and the tobacco industry is feeding us some BS. And this is even more alarming when we find out that they actually are using the same lawyers.
Uh-oh.
So we have a situation here in which the NFL, and rightly so in my opinion, has been called out in their BS. And they answer back saying that they demand the retraction of the New York Times article, saying, and the New York Times provided a sensational headline tying us to the tobacco industry without sufficient evidence to merit the link, and explains that the Times recklessly disregarded the truth and defamed the NFL, per article on Pro Football Talk. The big tobacco smear is especially pernicious. I don't know what that word means either. And unfair because the truth is that there are few institutions in American life that do not have some intersection with the tobacco industry at some point, however devoid of meaning. Significant connections between the Times and the tobacco industry, connections far more concrete than the phantom connections contrived by the Times, purporting to tie the NFL to the tobacco industry. So in other words, they're saying, you too, New York Times, you're just like the tobacco industry too, and we demand you take down this because, well, because frankly we say so. And if you don't, we'll sue. Or we're threatening to sue. Or we might not really sue, but we have to say this to cover our asses from the public disdain that is waiting to come raining down all over our heads.
I choose E. We gotta cover our asses.
We gotta cover our asses. So, is that the moral of the story?
That's all they're doing. Because if you got the same lawyers, well, similar, because we're not gonna say all the tobacco lawyers work for the NFL,
but a lot of them, an alarming amount of them. And
the fact that the NFL, like seriously, when you ask this question to people, does banging your head, does running into something and banging your head, do you think it's gonna affect your brain or is it gonna hurt? People say yes. If you say, hey, NFL players run into each other and bang their heads. People don't understand that they're still running into something, banging their heads. They start taking out, hey, that's not gonna cause any damage. And even those who do agree, yeah, it's gonna cause damage, they're like, but they get paid millions for it, and they know what they're getting into, and that's the problem. The NFL doesn't admit that you're getting into this. How are you gonna fix the problem if you don't admit that a problem exists?
You don't. Now, I have one final question before we close.
Mm-hmm.
Does Kehlani have concussion symptoms?
I think she needs to take an Instagram photo with the helmet.
Yo, and with that, it's been lit.
It's lit. That's
been-
all. That's all.
It's been lit like a cigarette. No, not really. If you're smoking and you listen to this, smoking cigarette, stop it. Stop
You mean
it.
lit like the NFL?
Tell the people where they could listen to this.
Now, you can find us on the inters of webs at our website, offthebenchradio.com. You could hit us up on Twitter, offthebed100, because that's how we keep it.
Yup.
Hit us on Facebook, IG, anything. You got social media, search Off the Bench. You're going to see our fly logo. Shout out to Prime Studios.
Yep.
Shout out to Orin. Shout out to everybody. Patrick, helping us get out there.
Yep.
We out.
Wait, I gotta do my shoutouts. How you gonna lay this out? I gotta do my shoutouts first.
All right, we're back in.
Yo, so, well, I don't really have any shoutouts. You took all my shoutouts. I want to shout out back to you. Off the Bench Radio. Yo, good night, Canada. Don't break me.